Hey everybody, and welcome to the new episode of Fullfunnel Live. Today, instead of Vladimir, I have Morgan Ingram, my long-term connection, and my favorite sales rep who turned marketer, helping building a credible content creation and distribution vehicle. So, first of all, for you guys who don't know Morgan, I don't know if that's the case, but just in case if you don't know him, he is 4 times leading top sales voice and a person who trained companies like Slack, Salesforce. And what I love about him is, as probably you don't see a lot of examples when salespeople become marketers, right? But it's this. I had the same experience. Probably a lot of you know that I started my career as a sales rep for the first 5 years and then switched to marketer. And I honestly believe that kind of gives you a competitive advantage as you understand both sides and also understand better the clients. I know a lot of you guys asked us questions. Okay, how can we create a good content if we serve a conservative market and hard to reach audience, or let's say suspicious audience, like security officers, engineers, etc. Right? What if our market is not active on LinkedIn? What if only our SME has the knowledge, right, and everybody else just is dependent on that knowledge, right? So the questions that lots of you are dealing every single day. So this is what we are going to cover today. Everybody is very welcome to post questions in the chat or in the Q&A blog. We'll make sure to cover everything. But first of all, Morgan, thanks a lot for joining me today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. Excited to dive into this topic, and then hopefully people can learn.
Yeah, and guys, let us know where you're all joining us from. Type in the chat your city. I'm again broadcasting today, not from Valencia, but from sunny Villarreal in Spain. Morgan, where you joining us from?
I'm joining from Atlanta, Georgia. So don't know if anyone tuning in is from in the East Coast or the Southeast, but that's where I'm at right now.
Yeah, we have Peyton from Portland. Good to see you. Martin from Vienna. Nice to see you, Martin. Who else? Marcelo from Brazil. Cool. So again, we have an international audience today. Luis,
yeah, we got some good stuff.
Cool, cool. Divyesh, India. Okay, so basically all the continents. I'm wondering if anybody from Australia.
we might get all of them together. Yeah.
But probably that's too late for Australians. Andras, Budapest. Nice to see you. Cool. So before we'll dive in, a quick intro, and first of all, I want just to say thank you to our long-term sponsor, a company called DealFront. You guys probably have heard a lot about DealFront from us. This is the leading European intent data provider, and I like a lot DealFront because first of all, it's fueled by live European data in multiple languages, providing you with insights and access that a lot of tools simply don't have. I mean, considering that price, right, which is not enterprise and is affordable for SMBs. So what also makes DealFront standing out is that they have 3 layers of data: market signals, web visitors, and European Union company databases. And you don't need to worry about compliance because they meet Europe's strict standards, ensuring GDPR compliance. So if you don't have an intent data tool, head to DealFront. I would post the link in the chat and also would pin it to the podcast description. And it's a PLG company, so you can get a free trial and basically evaluate if that's the right solution. So coming back to our initial topic, Morgan, the first question I would love to ask you, as we were chatting a lot behind the scenes about the issues with the content creation, right? The most challenging thing that folks told us also in the trenches community, how to enable SMEs to create and share content.
Yeah, so when we think of SMEs or subject matter experts, there's 3 different tiers of that. And how people think about this as well. The first is go to So that could be some VP, executive, even could be other realms. It's like someone who's, in your go-to-market function. They need to be creating more content on social, where it may be. Then the second thing is external SMEs. So that's like someone who would be considered like an influencer, but they are well known in their space for that content. And then the other bit that you'd be looking at is loyal customers and getting them as part of the SME. So when you integrate people into content, there's different ways on how you create content. So there's 3 different delivery mechanisms for content. So there's writing, there's video, and there's like essentially audio, which is podcasts. What most people do is they'll just be like, oh, cool, everyone just needs to write or everyone needs to create video. That's wrong. You need to take your SMEs and integrate them into different delivery mechanisms to then get in front of the potential buyers or market you're looking to get in front of. So again, core examples of all these that I'm talking about are you could have a customer writing on social, you could have an external SME do video and events, and then you could have like maybe 2 to 3 executives or go-to-market leaders have a podcast. You see how all those play in different functions. So when you think of content, it's not just let's go write on LinkedIn. It's actually a multitude of different things that allow you to go be successful. And so that's what people need to pay attention to.
But what if, let's say, if you have, or if you face a resistance in the organization? So, for example, I mean, I thought, first of all, I think personally that would be executive support, right? And everybody should believe in that strategy.
Of course.
I think a lot of comes also from how much do you love your own product and your credibility, your trust in it, right? Because if you know that you solve serious market challenges, right, or you help to simplify jobs to be done of your buyers, then you are willing to talk about it, because then you create a market knowledge and education, right? Sometimes that could be not the case, or maybe there is a lack of marketing background, or maybe specific skills, right? So let's say there is an old school mindset. Okay, so there is a marketing function or there is a content function, and they need to create content, and then they take the old school approach. Okay, so what are the keywords, right? So let's think about these keywords and let's create the content. So how would you basically create that buy-in and get support and motivate these SMEs?
So you go look at other people that are doing it well. So that's like the first and foremost thing. There are people who are doing it well and seeing results. You can go use that as a basis point to then go do what you need to go do, right? If you're going to go prove a point, you need to show that it's already being done to a certain degree and say, hey, we need to do this. I think another thing is I tell people as well, because this is a newer function, it's a newer way of thinking of things. If you don't do it, someone else will. So a good example of someone who just created really good content is, we've all seen it, Gong. Gong did a really good job of creating compelling content around their product, which allowed them to effectively be, one of the leaders, because they created really good content. So if you decide not to do it, someone in your space will decide to do it, and then you might lose market share because of that. So those are like the 2 things, but the easiest way to do it is say, okay, who else is who's else done this before? How can we show that this would be an example, and then get in front of it? So that's the key thing as well.
And I know you work as well with Cognism, and Gaetana as well works as the external advisor. Last year we had folks, Liam and Fran, on our podcast and at Fullfunnel Summit. So we were talking a little bit about this. And I think this is kind of an interesting question, which I wanted to ask you, is if you don't have enough capacity in-house or manpower, right, or for a specific reason, SME believes or executives believe that this is the right approach, but simply nobody, for any specific reason, can do it right now. What would be the right way to bring the external knowledge? Like, for example, maybe you can share the way how you collaborate with Cognism.
Yeah.
And what are the outcomes of it?
Yeah, so the way that you look at this from an SME is SMEs go into certain categories. So I'm the SME for sales, Katano is SME for marketing, and I believe that Jeff is SME for like sales operations. So you want to have SMEs for certain things, right? Like I could talk about marketing, but Katano is going to be a better option for that because he's more in depth. He's in that world more than I am and has that experience, and vice versa. So that's what you have to look at here, is find people who have the credibility across the board. There's a difference between someone who's an influencer and a subject matter expert. An influencer can influence people because maybe they create good content, but they maybe not have the in-depth experience you're looking for. Expert has in-depth experience and they still happen to have influence. Those are two different things. And so that's what we're looking at here is how do we do that? And then with Cognizant, the way that I go about this is more, again, the route. So I do this. I do like in-person content as well. We also do content that is posted through my channel to that sales persona, right, on my sales content. So that's an example of how we get in front of those people and able to have those conversations, right? So those are just core examples of how we do it. And then outcome basis based on MQLs, impressions, engagement, stay rates on our virtual events, how active and engaged our people are when they actually come to those things. That's how we measure and track these things across the board.
But I also think that for any company that leverages external influence, they kind of borrow the reputation and a piece of that brand, right? So it's kind of also creating the trust and credibility in your space. So this vendor becomes associated with these thought leaders, right? With these creators, with people that market already trusts, right? So that's a huge benefit as well. I'm wondering. I also want to get your point of view on the distribution side. So I know a lot of companies that kind of had an idea, okay, we are going to involve our key executives because they are the core SMEs in our organization. And these people start writing content on LinkedIn or doing the podcasts or hosting the webinars, right? Doing like standard demand generation activities, but they don't have a lot of success. And partially, whenever I analyze the profiles or activities of these companies, I know there is no distribution in place. Basically, what these companies do, and we are not evaluating the content quality. Obviously, this could be one of the core issues. But let's assume that the content quality is okay, or let's say good, right? So, but they don't do any appropriate distribution. I'm just wondering how do you deal with this, and how do you set up the distribution mechanism, making sure that your target market consumes the content and obviously target accounts start seeing that content in their newsfeed?
Yeah, I think one of the things that you can do that can lead to success, right, is doing a survey of how your audience consumes. Because I can give you great examples of how to get marketing and salespeople engaged. I know what to do there because I've been in it. It's harder for me to say what finance wants or HR or cybersecurity. I'm not in those worlds as much. I can give ideas, but they're not going to be as like foolproof. So I'm saying all this as in, I would survey your audience and ask them how they consume content. Is it webinars? Is it podcasts? Is it white paper? I don't know. Every industry is different. Yet I would take the time to ask them in surveys and get some understanding, because that ultimately is going to help you be more successful in what you're looking to do. So if you're looking at anything, it would be that, and that will help you get success in what you're looking to do across the board. So just be very mindful of doing a survey. And then once you can do that survey, then fantastic. Now your next step is, once I have this survey done, let's start creating content around those things. Let's double down. Let's integrate SMEs in the content, and you go from there. So that's how I'd look at it.
But again, if that's about the channels and the formats, right? But let's assume, again, just let's take a specific example. Let's say where kind of our target audience is like QA engineers or whoever, right? Specific engineering teams, right? And these people are not hanging out a lot on LinkedIn. So, and you are not, and let's assume you are not working for the market leader, right? Or the category leader. So how can you ensure that these people will see your content?
Well, that's why we're doing the survey. I'm surveying customers of the people we're trying to get in front of, and they're going to tell us where they live. So that's where you did put the distribution. So we're only doing the survey to figure out where they're actually at. So it answers that question already. So if you do a survey of all your customers that are in the QA, and they say, hey, 80% of us live in Reddit. You need to somehow create content on Reddit. Now, how you go about that, that's up to you. But that's why we're actually doing the survey. It answers the question because that's where we're actually distributing the content. Because now I have confirmation that that's where they're at. And that's really the only way you're going to figure that out. If you were to survey sales leaders and market leaders, you probably get 78% is on LinkedIn. But from a QA finance, we don't know that. And you don't want to guess. So that's why we're doing surveys to current customers. And they are going to tell us where they're living, which means you're the people you're trying to get in front of are also living there too. And so that's how you solve the distribution problem without guessing.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. But what about events? Let's say if like the core part of your audience tells you, okay, I'm learning from webinars, right? But again, you don't have their contacts, etc. You believe, okay, so that makes perfect sense. You set up the webinar, you try to promote it to, like you set up the ads to promote that webinar, but you don't have a lot of signups. So what would be your way to kind of promote this key activity?
So a couple of things you can do. One is you can do a giveaway. So if there's something within your buyer personas or in your market and they're really trying to, and you're trying to get more people, you could create buzz by doing a giveaway that's relevant to those buyers. I'm not going to say what you should give away because it's really coming down to like who you want to get in front of and who you want to talk to. So that's an example there. The second thing that you can look at is, are there other people who are external SMEs, or are there lists that you could tap into to get in front of those people? That's a prime example as well. Can we get in front of those people? Can we tap in, etc. Right? That's another piece as well. The third thing that you also could do is maybe there's another way where you can actually get in front of customers, right? So customers is also a really good example of this as well. Can your customers promote what you're doing? Can you get customers involved so they're promoting it to their companies? Co-marketing, right? A lot of people talk about this. That's the third component, I would say. So if you have those three components, you're typically and most likely going to be in a good spot.
And I'm wondering, what's the role of SDRs, right? Or generally speaking, what's the role of sales in the content creation and content distribution? The reason why I'm asking, you remember that post you once posted on LinkedIn, and that was like quite a good thread. And a lot of folks thought, okay, so if I'm CTO, I'm not going to listen to kind of sales rep who has zero experience in my domain, no knowledge, no understanding of what challenges I'm dealing with, right? So there is no peers trust. So I'm wondering, what's your take on what's the role of sales in content creation and content distribution?
From an SDR standpoint?
Yeah, from SDR, account executive, for example, as well.
Yeah, some people may see this differently. I don't think actually SDRs created content, which is counterintuitive because that's how I started. I created content as an SDR. Yet that's just, it's a lot. It's a lot to hit your number and also create content. It's just a completely different mindset. And a lot of people would probably want to do that, to be fair. They just want to be able to hit their number, and it's a lot of consistency and a lot of work on the back end. I'm not telling you just to not do this. I'm just saying a lot of people, if you told them to do this, they would probably not want to do it. So the way I think about it is you have to be a curator, which actually is a lot easier. So let's say, for example, on the weekend, you read an article, you watch a video. I just want you to take 3 components of that video or all that of that article, and now what you're going to do, right, is take that information and then you're going to share it on LinkedIn. Very simple. Say, hey, this is something that I saw on an article or in a video. Here are the 3 main takeaways that I got out of it. And here's what I'm going to do moving forward. That is going to help you out a ton. And that's going to allow you to have a way better conversation, right? Than just saying, hey, I'm going to create content. You want to be a curator of the content, and you want to find information in your industry that's relevant and add your 2 cents to it. And if you do that once a week, that's 52 posts. Let's say if you take holidays off, okay, that's about 46 posts a week, or no, 46 posts for the year. And that's still going to give you more visibility than most people get. And it's just taking something you read and just adding your 2 cents. That's how you can start creating better content without having to start from scratch.
If we'll talk about benefits and perks for sales, right? Obviously, I totally agree that, if there is no right mindset, you can't, and there is no incentive, That's also important, right? If there is no incentive to create content, then obviously they would kind of ignore this activity. But let's say if the mindset is there, right? And I totally agree that curation is probably the easiest format. From your experience, what are the benefits you see that sales folks can gain out of that activity?
Yeah, so a couple things. Well, it also depends on your goals too, because some people, you might want to become some type of influencer creator type and you want to do brand deals. So then that actually might be your outcome, but not everyone's like that. So let's just say you're a sales rep and you don't care about that. So number one is you'll get more awareness in your market. So if you do reach out to your market, you might be known a little bit more. So your prospecting and your responses will typically be higher. That's like a typical. The other thing that can also be seen here is you can also start really focusing and dialing down on your industry. So you're going to be reading a lot. So like you're actually going to be better on your calls and your sales calls across the board, cold calls, whatever you want to do. And the third thing is you may have some inbound that comes in. Obstacle to be transparent here that happens though, if you're in territories and you do have inbound that comes in, it could not be for you. So then you're like, wait, why am I doing this again? So if you're greenfield, it's great. It's harder if you're territory though, but you still could get the benefits of just having your brand out there. And when you reach out, it's going to be better conversions.
Love it. Love it. By the way, guys, I don't know if you have seen our announcement, but the last week of March, we are going to host a Fullfunnel Summit. So that will be our 5th edition. And I'm dropping the link in the comments. Morgan would be one of our speakers. So if you didn't get your free ticket, just click the link and join us and sign up for his session. So looking forward to meeting all of you there. By the way, I also saw that aside from the curation, what makes perfect sense is when you initiate threads in the comments, right? So let's say you have your sales list and you have your target buyers, right? And imagine you don't have enough domain knowledge, so you can't share any, let's say, value-added comment. If you have, then it's the lowest hanging fruit, right? So I think that personally, if you can post something that then later you can repurpose as a content, right, that would be a fantastic outcome. But if you don't have that domain expertise, what makes sense is just starting asking the questions, right? So love your point about this, right? Why do you think? Oh, so you can always add the value by asking what are the root reasons of this challenge, right? Or how you're going to solve it in this specific under these specific circumstances. Why? Because even if you don't have a good reply, or if you'll have a good reply, doesn't matter. That's the easiest way to kind of move the conversation from the comments to inbox, right? Hey, thanks a lot for engaging. I would love to ask more. Boom, you have now connection and relationship with your buying committee member, right? That's one of the things. And the second one, I think that is partially aligned with what you have said, is kind of writing, we call it love letters about your target accounts, which means, so for example, like you say, you read an article or so, you took video, but at the same time, I believe every SDR or account executive follows the news about their target accounts, right? Something has happened, strategic initiative, changes, whatever, right? You can simply pick up that news that you have seen and write about it, right? So I have seen, this is kind of the trend that is happening in our industry. Company A, B, and C already announced that they are going, whatever, right? They announced that they are going to leverage AI in their products or whatever. They are going to do this and that, right? Or I have seen that like these 3 accounts, they're actively hiring directors of innovation. Partially that explains this trend that we are seeing in our vertical. Do you guys see the same, right? And you basically initiate the new conversation. Reddit has created this, right? Because on Reddit you post and then a lot of people start voting, upvoting this, right? Leaving the comments, and then you have a full thread. But literally you can replicate that approach on any platform. LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, doesn't really matter.
Yeah. Again, it depends on, like you said, the channels, depending on where your audience lives, but is that everything you're saying, those are things that you collaboration as well.
Cool. I want also to make sure that we'll cover questions from our community. A lot of folks ask questions, and one of them, let's see, Luis asks right now. Let me share this one. Morgan, what if I ask some salespeople on LinkedIn how our target audience prefers to get information? This could complement the survey you suggested.
What if we ask some salespeople on LinkedIn how our target audience prefers to get information? So are you more so, I mean, you could, are you saying put up a poll as a post? Like, as I'm assuming that maybe that's what you're saying. Like, you could do that too. That's another example. Like, you could actually do this as a poll that people could also answer too. I'm assuming that's what that's saying, unless I'm misreading this question.
Yeah, I think it's just the question about this, but literally you can do it two ways, right? The first one is running the simple poll. The second one is just you have your connections on LinkedIn, right? And because a lot of people think that survey is just a marketing game. You send it to your intercom list, right, or to your like HubSpot list, and hey, can you please fill in that survey? Or run the banner campaign on the website, right, and asking people to fill in the survey. But the same, like this is basically all about marketing and sales collaboration. Sales could reach out to their connections and say, hey guys, we're doing this research at our company, and I was just wondering, right, how do you guys consume? But it's not limited to LinkedIn, I assume. You can do it by mail, you can call, right, depending on what channel, what is your primary channel of conversations.
Yep. Oh, it's for the salespeople targeting already to the same audience. Yeah. I mean, look, like survey, polls, whatever you want to do, like the answer to the question of what you should do is that though. Like the only way you're really going to be able to figure out the answer of what you just said is by asking the people that you're trying to get in front of, right? And that's ultimately what we want to do here.
Cool. So we have quite a lot of questions from our community. So let's cover them one by one. The first one is from Winston Henderson. He asked how to build that trust and credibility in a vertical where you are unknown and have no case studies to show that you can deliver for them.
Okay, so this is like, if you have no case studies, you're unknown, you're probably literally just started, right? I think the first thing, this is actually different than content actually. So, well, it still is a component of content, but I wouldn't go get like SMEs yet. I wouldn't even go get content creators. I wouldn't do any of that. I wouldn't create awareness. Like, you need results first. So I think the first thing that you need to do is find people that are willing to partner with you and work with you. That could be, it could be on a basis point where I don't want to say do work for free, but maybe there's some people that you could work with in like a barter or something like that, in kind or something of that nature, so that you could work with them on something. That could be a component that you would focus on. Or number two is just finding a customer first and foremost. Like, and you could do that through referrals, asking your network, right? Things of that nature. You need customers first in case studies. So then now you can start drilling down on those case studies to then use SMEs and content. Because if you're getting top of funnel, you obviously want to be able to leverage that. And those are different components you can do to leverage that. That's like at least my mindset and what you could be doing there to be successful.
Love it. One more is coming from Jerry. What's the best way to capture content ideas across the company so there is always a source of interesting content?
This answer is going to be very simple, and this is something we even do internally to this point, where I was like, I think we're overcomplicating it. And I'm talking about like, not like people out there, like we were overcomplicating it. Your sales calls and your customer calls has all the content that you need. You actually really don't actually need to go further than that. I've come to the conclusion. Like, we have across the team on a weekly basis, probably 20 to 40 customer or prospect interactions for the most part. So if you literally just put that into AI or any type of filtration system, it will effectively tell you what you should be posting about. Because even in this conversation, in my sales conversations, in my customer conversations, I'm explaining what we do and what we're about. And that is the best content that you're going to get. And you'll never run out of ideas. And that's what you should be doing.
But what if these are like literally repetitive questions? You know, you don't have, or maybe you are not generating enough sales. Well, that's another.
Well,
That's
yeah, well,
another
you got to
story.
go back to the first step. You need to start talking to people. So that's a different conversation, like how to get meetings. That's, we can talk about that, but that's different. But like ultimately, like yeah, like you gotta be having conversations, right, in order to do that. But I'm assuming this question is from like we got something going on. If you have nothing at all, then like yeah, there's a different process to that. You need to go back to getting intros, referrals, etc., and get things rolling.
But would you say that in that case, it could be a good idea if you kind of bring an external expertise, right? You are bringing an external thought leader and kind of start talking to that person. And usually external thought leaders, they are connected to your ICP, right? And kind of borrow or ask them, can you please connect me to my like target buyer, VP of something, right? So I would be able to interview them, right? So that could be also a good approach, kind of to collect the initial set of questions or content ideas.
Yeah, that's exactly what you want there.
Okay, cool. So question from Laura, how the marketing team can work with SDRs, especially when the company has had a restructure and now the emphasis is on quick wins. We know that we need to nurture these leads, but the higher ups don't. So what do we do?
That's well, I mean, I can give you some taxes, but it sounds like a lot of misalignments and also things like different expectations from each department. So let me understand that again. So you're saying does the SDRs roll into marketing? I'm gonna make sure I understand that correctly.
Yeah, so how the marketing team can work with sales, with SDRs more specifically, but basically they both understand that they need to nurture leads, which means I usually understand it as like most of our market is not actively buying, it's not in market, right? Yeah. So we understand that we need to nurture these leads for, let's say, target accounts first, but company focuses on or prioritizes quick wins, right? So how both teams should work together in that case?
First and foremost, I mean, a lot of this is going to be like, this sounds simple, but like there's a lot of things that people don't do, right? So like you just need to go and have a conversation with each other to figure out what are you being like, what is your outcomes? What are you being based on, right? We need to figure out what we're being based on. So if we can figure out what we're being based on, then overall makes it easier across the board to get that done. You need to know that, like, first and foremost. If you don't know what you're being based on, then it's going to be very hard for you to actually figure out what the conversation needs to be. So marketing and sales need to say, this is what our outcomes are. Here's what we're being based on. Here's what we're going to do. And this is what we need to accomplish. Right. And so if you have that nailed down, you're in a pretty overall good spot. Right. And if you're able to do that, then everyone else will be ultimately excited and everyone will be like, this is fantastic. This is great. So then the next layer is, what if their SDRs or BDRs are pouring to marketing? You need to figure out what levers they're pulling to get meetings. So are they doing cold calls? Are they doing cold emails? Are they doing video or whatever it may be, right? So you need to figure that part out. And then once you have outcome dependence, and then now you know what the tactical pieces are, you should be in a better spot. So those are all the things that I think about across the board.
Awesome. Love it. So one more question from Peyton, and I know Peyton is here. So the question is, how should we diversify our written content articles basically for the ICPs? The type of content is a vital component of content, and yeah, basically the idea is that Google semantic search parameters implies a diversity of types of content and content lengths, but not every query needs a 5K word answer. Basically, yeah, if I would try to structure it, right? So you have different content ideas, and not all of these, let's say, content ideas should have a like in-depth article on the blog, right? So how would you diversify the content, and also if you have different ICPs for your product line?
Yeah, okay. So this kind of goes back to the example, like they have different SMEs for different personas. So there's probably different content for your personas as well. So there's something we're talking, they go after sales are different across the board. They have a central theme of like what they're trying to accomplish, and then they have personas below that they talk to. And so that's what you need to think about. P's for so it makes it a lot easier for you to for ICPs and to get in people have get the success you're looking to get. So I would just try to find out what that is. Or I know another example of what we talked to someone about was they have industries they really want to focus on more than anything. So I say double down on those industries and reach out to those personas accordingly with that content so you can get the responses you're looking for objectively.
If you don't have an opportunity to kind of have or involve multiple SMEs for different personas, right? So what would be the process? Would you prioritize one ICP based on whatever use cases, win rates, etc., or you'll take another approach?
I would it depends on where the team's trying to go, but I would definitely double down on what's already working. So for like, wow, this industry's working really well, let's just double down. Let's keep going in that direction. Unless which in most cases you haven't, tapped out of that industry and you're like, we've literally talked to everyone, like there's nowhere else for us to go. Okay, cool. Maybe you need to go get something else in another industry. But for the most part, like you probably haven't tapped out. So it's like, let's just double down on what's working. Let's get SMEs, let's get people here, right? So let's make sure that we're good from there. So that's the case.
And two last questions before we'll wrap it up. I think that was pretty insightful, and we kind of covered a lot of challenging topics for that like almost every B2B company faces. Two favorite questions from marketers. What stack would you recommend?
Stack in terms of just overall, like tech stack or sales marketing?
Tech. No, sorry. Tech stack for running content creation and content distribution, basically to enable the workflows.
Okay.
And
okay, okay. So what I would do is I'm going to give you just overall tool, whatever tool you decide is what you decide, but I'm going to give you the category. So first and foremost, you need a recording tool. Whatever you want to get, Gong, I use Fathom, whatever you want to do. I don't really care, but you need a recording tool. Because like I said, you should be recording every conversation. That is content. Every conversation you have is content. So you need to be recording it. And if you're not, you're missing out on content. Then you need something to synthesize the recording. So I use like Copy AI, for example. So I use Fathom. It will record the call. I take the transcript. I throw it into Copy AI. It creates content for me and gives me content topics. And then now I have a whole document of content. I've been doing this for the past month, and I wish I would have been doing this earlier, this process. And we have so much content we can write on. Like I'm not like I don't have like not have an idea. I always have an idea because it's continuously flowing, right? So that's another piece. I really like that. Grammarly, I highly recommend people use Grammarly. That's really good, making sure that you actually say the right stuff, right? You want to make sure that you're actually being like legit there. And then those are that's really it. Like as long as you have those, that's good. I think there's what's the site called? It's not a tech stack on this website. It's called Answer the Public. I think you could use that one. That's a good basis point to figure out some if you're thinking about it. But stretch, you could get Sales Navigator. It does allow you to see who's posted in the past, I think 30 or 90 days, and you could get topics from people that are already posting. But I'm stretching. Like literally, if you do those three tools I mentioned in the beginning, you're pretty good. You're set.
Awesome. Thank you. And the last one, I know that a lot of people talk about this, but actually I would love to get your take, is how to incorporate ChatGPT into that process. Like the hottest question everybody has.
Of course. So yeah, look, like if you're using ChatGPT, you need to think about it getting you 80% of the way there. So one of the things that you can do is you can put in your audience, you can put in what their pain points are, and then tell it to come up with different frameworks of not questions, but frameworks of LinkedIn posts that you can create. Different frameworks of different pieces that you can create. And that's what you want to be able to do there. So just another thing to take in consideration of what you can do is you can actually put them into different frameworks inside of ChatGPT. You also could take posts that you really like on LinkedIn or other social platforms and get it to analyze those posts and give you feedback on if it's good or not. So those are just things that you can do across the board that can lead to success.
But also it seems it's kind of aligned with the idea that you shared. So you can basically transcribe your calls, right? And then you can say, okay, out of these calls, pay attention to the questions that our buyers asked, right? What types of content or what could be a good content to address, right? These questions. That could be also a good idea.
Exactly.
Cool. Then it seems we have covered everything. Thank you so much. And thanks a lot, guys, for asking fantastic questions. As I said, so in 1 month from now, we're going to host our Fullfunnel Live Summit. Morgan would be among speakers. So if you didn't sign up, head to fullfunnel.io/summit and get your free ticket. Next week, we're skipping Fullfunnel Live as we're heading to host our ABM event in Copenhagen. And a week after, on 7th of March, we are bringing Amber Boji, ex-VP of Marketing at Rich Desk, talking about expansion ABM campaigns. So stay tuned. Thanks a lot for joining us. Thanks a lot for feedback. Alexa, big fan of Morgan. Yeah, me too.
Thank you, Alexa. I appreciate it.
Thanks a lot, guys. You actually shared a lot of fantastic questions, and I hope we have nailed them down. So stay tuned. Hope you'll come for Morgan's session, as he has a fantastic framework. I have seen it behind the scenes, so I believe you'll learn a lot. See you all. Thanks a lot, Morgan, for joining me. Take care.
Cheers. Thank you all. Have a good one.